Hi, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad you're in your space.
Oh yeah, this is our annex space, one of our four studios.
You have four studios?
We yeah, all in well, one-ish location, but four different practice spaces.
Oh my God. So I was just chatting with myself, essentially. I was just chatting before you came on. In New York City, obviously things are much smaller. So I love when we do Instagram lives and I can see just the size of spaces in other parts of the country because I'm like, you could never have a studio in New York City. So that is beautiful.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
trying to look more.
okay. Here, like this is our annex space. So this is a single room studio, and then let's see, they're doing filming outside.
Oh,
So I'll see if I can get you like our main studio is just across the street over there with all those little like flags. The
wow.
bus going by. That's our main space.
So this is your baby. This is your studio. Tell us how long you've been open, what it's been like coming through COVID. Like, what's it like?
I mean, both loaded, right? I mean, it's good. We have been open as a studio since 2013, so we're coming up on 10 years. I've been involved in the studio since 2015, and I became the owner in March 1st of 2020.
Oh my God, David, that's insane. March 1st of 2020, and you had made, I'm sure it was a decision that took a long time to come to. I mean, owning a business, that's a big step. And you're just like, I'm gonna do it, I'm ready, I'm gonna sign the papers March 1st, and then
And then, yeah, it was so the previous owner had the opportunity to move to Prague. So she was planning her leave for the country. I was managing at the time. And I have a business partner who doesn't do the day-to-day stuff. So he helps like with the buildings. So she's like, we need someone to take over my ownership share. And we had been talks about it for a couple months. And then when I went to sign the paperwork, we were like, okay, so we should sign the papers and maybe like order some extra Clorox wipes. And what a shift.
wow. So how did you, I'm assuming you shut down because I mean, New York, everything just closed completely. How long did you have to close your doors?
So we never officially closed our doors for even one day.
Okay.
So we had our shutdown started on a Friday. On Thursday before, we learned how to use Zoom really quickly. And we swapped our classes to Zoom. On Friday when we shut down, we started Zooming from the studio and from people's houses. So we had one person, well, two people at a time coming into the studio, one person to teach, one person to run tech. And the time gets so blurry, but we did that iteration for a while. Then there was a point in time where we were allowed to have somebody demoing practice while we were on Zoom. We reconfigured the studio so we have big screen TVs in the studio so we were able to see folks from home while we were practicing. Then the
Oh,
other iterations we went through, we had, because we have garage doors, we were able to open the garage doors and qualify as an outdoor space. So we
oh,
did
really?
that in December and January of one year. So
A
like
little chilly
December,
for Chicago, right?
yeah, it was folks practicing in full parkas. It was wild. And then we did have a temporary outdoor space that was an old automotive, pretty much a junkyard that had been left abandoned for a long time. And so we made the best out of like, well, it's a big space in the middle of the city and brought all our speakers out and did that for a little while. So yeah, we've been through
That's
sort of every iteration.
so where are you now? Are you still doing the Zoom? Are you doing hybrid classes? Are you just now focusing on the indoor space?
Yeah, so where we're at now is no restrictions, which is awesome. But also, I keep saying like the benefit of these past 2 years is kind of stuff like this, where we now have more face-to-face interaction. So we didn't want to take that away. So we do still offer Zoom classes, which has been nice because a lot of our students have moved, you know, during the pandemic. I'm sure it was like this in New York too. People who are living in really congested cities realized, why am I living here and I can't get outside?
Yeah.
But we were able to keep our members connected because now they're taking Zoom classes, and we have live stream classes where you see the teacher, but the teacher doesn't see you fully. But that way, all those classes go to a replay library. Because I'm sure you know some of the Zoom classes are like really lovely when you're taking them live, and when you take them after the fact, it's a lot of like, okay, Sally, back.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's smart. I mean, that's a really, I mean, yeah, there are definitely a lot of things that we came out of that are better. Thank goodness. You know, we all made it through. I always say made it through in sort of a, have we made it through? Like, I'm always hoping, like, I'm always a little fearful around the corner, but yeah, I feel like we're in a good spot now. But I love that people can still do this. And I love that now you're in Chicago and anyone in the world can take your classes. It's wide open. And I love that for students, small businesses. I mean, everyone needs all the help they can get, especially as a small business.
I mean, truly, like the impact is huge. And we now have, there's a teacher training going on in Switzerland. I don't know if you all see this, but hello, Miss Dal. We have some folks who have been taking consistently our classes from other countries. And like they'll take our morning classes as their night classes.
Yeah.
And it's been really lovely to connect in that capacity and to sort of idea and information share, because I think we all get caught up in our own little bubbles, our own little routines, our own ways. And the benefit of being able to just see like, oh, when I say Anjaneyasana, that's the shape you go to, versus what I'm used to seeing, you know, what that lineage has sort of translated to in our city. So it's really cool to see this like practice that brings everyone together,
Right.
but still has these really nuanced differences.
Wow. And that's so funny that you say that, because I literally had that thought this weekend. Like, I've been working hard and very focused and sort of in my lane. And then I took the weekend off to spend with friends, and my world just opened up again. I had all this input and all this stimulation. And I was like, oh, I need to keep doing it. So you're right. You need the stimulation, you need the collaboration. And even if you're focused and doing things that you love to do. Hey, Melissa, our other Melissa has joined us. Thank you, Melissa.
And Diesel too, who's one of our like, Diesel was here when the studio opened. Hi, Diesel. It's good to see you here.
Yay! So your name is not just a clever pun. You are literally you started in a garage.
Yeah, so the studio started as one location with two studios, and it was previously a Jiffy Lube. So Jiffy Lube closed down, put up some walls, made it like put down some flooring, and we were able to get our first space. So that has one garage studio. Then we functioned out of that space until I believe it was 2019, might have been 2018. Again, the time gets just a little blurry these days. We planned an expansion and we acquired this space, which, as you saw, is directly across the street from the main studio. And our intention of this space that we call the Annex was supposed to be like a temporary location. Then we really liked it, so we kept it. And then while we were planning an expansion upwards, next door to the main studio was a car wash. For years and years and years, people would come in, they'd go and get their cars washed while they took class, and the car wash was so lovely, and they would valet park people's cars, so they drop off their keys at the front desk. It was such a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
And that car wash just ended up shutting its doors. They'd been there for 20 years. They were done doing it. So we were able to get that space, which is directly connected to our main studio space. So that is a full-size drive-through car wash that we cleaned up, reconstructed, and now it's a studio that can hold 100 mats comfortably.
I was just gonna say, between all your spaces, what's your total capacity? Like, do you ever simultaneously hold classes in? Like, we have 300 people now. Like, that must be an amazing amount of people.
Yeah, it's wild. Like we try to stagger the best we can, so at least there's not classes loading in and coming out at the same time. But there are times where the studio across the street will have between 150 and 200 people all practicing at the same time. And now we're also running teacher training, so then that just brings in this like new energy in life. We have an amazing staff of volunteers who make sure that the studio stays like looking good while everyone's coming in and out, because while we're really, really fortunate to have like a really large, really lovely communal lobby space, we're still in the middle of Chicago, so we don't have that much.
And so tell me, are you from Chicago originally? Did you grow up there? I've never been to Chicago in my life, and I've always wanted to go. So I want to hear what Chicago, just sidebar, what Chicago is like.
So I'm actually from the East Coast. I grew up in Philly, and then I spent most of my like young adulthood in Baltimore and traveling up and down the coast. I was a professional dancer for a while, so Baltimore, DC, New York, Philly were like my trek often.
Yeah.
And I moved out to Chicago about 10 years ago. And it's a really cool city. Like coming from the East Coast, the big things that feel totally wild are it's big. You know, like New York is big and has a lot of people, but even in the bigness, it's small. Like in the middle of the city, every street has 2 lanes, and there's parking lots at Target. That was the first big thing when I moved here. I was like, this Target has a parking lot?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's cool. We've got like more geography than I knew before I moved here. You know, like the lake feels like a beach. It's expansive. There's beaches, goes all along the coast of Chicago. Then there's the Lakeshore Drive, and the Lakefront Trail is 18 miles of walkable and bikeable trails. And like there's not much elevation. That is definitely one thing when I go back to the East Coast. I'm like getting winded going up and down the hills. But it's a cool city. It's like, there's lots of different populations of folks that have definitely like sort of bonded together. So different areas have like huge Polish population. I didn't know so much about sausage until I moved to a neighborhood called Logan Square, and everybody has their Polish sausage that they were talking about. And it's just funny coming from the East Coast, which is really diverse and eclectic, to a different diverse and eclectic. And again, just realizing, oh wow, like there's so much that I didn't know until you live in a new place, or you are able to experience a new place in some capacity.
Yeah. So it's your home now. Chicago is where you're at. That's your home base. That's amazing. When you come back to the East Coast, do you visit yoga students to like check them out? Like, do you have favorites that are anywhere in Philly or New York that you like to go to?
Yeah, so I haven't been, my family also moved out of the East Coast, so I haven't been to Philly and New York for a while. I travel to Boston fairly often, and I travel to Baltimore fairly often. So like Baltimore, I always practiced in a space called Charm City Yoga, which I love, love, love. Camille, just like a shout out, I'm pretty sure she's still teaching there, was like a teacher who really like sparked my interest of yoga. And it's funny looking back on it now, because at the time I was the student who would like come in, practice in the back, and leave. And so I don't know if she even knows who I am and the impact that she had on me. Like, these are just the things like I think about all the time as people are like coming and going. And you're like, oh, you're not just 100 people coming and going. You're somebody who is having a full experience that I will never know the depth of.
And how beautiful is that? I mean, that's such a beautiful thing to be part of. Like, you don't know, but you're right. It's you're still affecting it. You're all inspiring each other. The theme of our first issue, which I think we sent you copies, was actually was inspiration. And that's one of my motivating guiding forces in life. It's like you want to do things that you feel inspired by. You want to like be excited about things. And this is what I love about talking to people in the wellness space, like studio owners. You have to love what you're doing. Like, you have to be inspired and love it, because let's be honest, it's not easy. It's a lot of work, but obviously it's worth it.
Yeah, I kind of had to giggle at that because I think more often than not, when I meet somebody new and they ask like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" I'm like, "Oh, I own a yoga studio," and they go, "Oh, that must be so relaxing."
Oh, yeah. No.
Like, you'd think so, right?
Yeah. 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 So
So like
what would be the
especially,
one word, what would be the one word you would use to describe being a yoga studio owner? If you had to use just one word.
oh boy, um, hats,
Oh,
lots of hats.
yeah. Yeah.
For yeah, I think the biggest challenge in owning a studio, like especially in this day and time, is you have to go from fully holding space, leading classes, like spreading that passion and inspiration that you have, to then step off of your mat and respond to emails about mixed up retail orders and the internet that's been in and out, and learning how to manipulate and set up soundboards and
Right.
audio visual equipment, like all of that.
Yeah.
So this constant like push and pull of energy of like giving, and then
Yeah.
I think the challenge that I find, and that I find with, I have a few studio owners who I connect with often, is like when you can receive, and like you're saying, like find that inspiration piece.
Yeah. That's replenishing your well. I mean, that's the only way you're able to do it. And it's funny because I did a yoga teacher training 15 years ago thinking, I want to own a studio and be a teacher and all that. But I couldn't figure out how to do that shift that you just talked about from receiving and giving. I could give and then I was depleted. And I couldn't figure out how to switch it fast enough to then receive so that I could then give it back again. So I chose a different path. But I think you're right. I mean, when you do these things, that's the key component. If you can do those things well and not feel depleted and feel, like you're giving and receiving, and you're in a good space with it all, like that's a huge help.
And I think that's something that yoga teachers in general face. I think many yoga teachers aren't solely yoga teachers. The nature of the industry is you tend to teach a few classes at a few studios, and you're either a constant gig worker trying to like pick up shifts that can work with your yoga schedule, or you're a 9 to 5er who needs the fulfillment of teaching yoga, and you have something to give there. But I think that regardless of where you are in the industry, it is this sort of push and pull, and like that old saying, like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, or like do what you love and you'll work every single moment of every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I joked with someone one time. They said, "Do you do the?" They were asking me, "Did I do the design for one thing?" And I said, "Yes, I do the design, but I also like unclog the toilet and send all the emails and deal with everything." I mean, that's the nature of what you do, and you do it gladly. There's no. But it's funny that people think that there's a lot of people doing a lot of things, and it's usually one person doing a lot of things, and then it's surrounded with amazing people like your volunteers. We're a volunteer-based magazine as well, so we have people like Melissa from our team who connected us with you. I mean, and thank goodness that we make these relationships and meet amazing people all over the country. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you be our first Chicago partner. I hope to be out there and visit you. Can you share with us before you go what you're most excited about coming up? Is it a teacher training? Is it a retreat? Is it some kind of class that's new to your schedule?
Yeah, so we're super excited. We just started 2 teacher trainings, which is wild, but we have a 200-hour teacher training that just began on Thursday, and we are halfway through our 85-hour prenatal yoga teacher training. So like big things that are coming up is the vision of this space is the annex that I'm in is to be transformed into a training space. So we are like so close on debuting our 300-hour teacher training. Through the pandemic, most of our yoga teachers, if they didn't already have their 300-hour, use the time for professional development. So we now have some of the most highly skilled, highly compassionate, most inclusive, diverse staff of any studio that I've seen. I am a little bit biased, but we made it a goal as a studio to put that out there because we want to keep bringing the industry up.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Melissa. And if anyone in the Chicago area, visit their ginormous space in Chicago. And we're actually gonna put this on your partner page on our website, so if people want to learn more about you, you'll be able to pick up our next issue, which is our love themed issue at your studio. So thank you for your support. And I'm re-inspired to do what I'm doing by hearing your inspiration. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for this time. So happy to connect.
Yay! Have a great one.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.